I accidentally clicked record while I was walking around trying to find good lighting, but today's video is about money, everyone's favorite topic. And now that I'm walking around anyways, here is my cat. She's sleeping. Anyways, I'm sitting down, let's get straight into it. The reason I'm making this video is because transparency in the data science industry, especially if you're a minority in any way, or you're new to the industry, don't know where you fall, how much you should even expect. This is the video for you because there's so many factors that go into salary. And we're gonna go into all the numbers, all the different breakdowns, what goes into what someone's salary is and could be. Then I'll go into my exact progression as well as my expectations for the future in terms of salary as well. The biggest takeaway honestly should be that data science is a field where honestly within 1.5 to 2 years, you could very easily double your salary. We're all actually a lot more valuable than we think. So yeah, let's get straight into it. I'm Priya, data scientist at a startup under Uber called Drizzly, majored in physics at the University of Chicago, graduated 3 years ago. There's a context. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video. Let's get into it. The first thing I want to do is go into all the ways we can group by what salary you could have. Location by far is the biggest one. Like people don't realize, but if you're making 200,000 in San Francisco as a data scientist, that's equivalent to, I'd say like 130,000 in Chicago, which is where I'm based. If you're not making $100,000 as an entry-level data scientist in San Francisco or a place like San Francisco, that's the wrong company for you. The next biggest group I'd say is years of experience. I'd say your first 2 years are probably going to be like the lowest salary you're ever going to have, right? And then you could quite literally double it. Like my salary is quite literally double. Years of experience really ties in to another way you could group by, which is by education level. But really like don't be discouraged by that because I do not have a master's degree. I don't have a PhD. I majored in astrophysics, didn't even have a CS degree, but computational astrophysics was a lot of programming in Python, Bayesian statistics, building ML models. So I had like a direct line into going to data science. So my camera died. We're gonna finish the video on my phone because I'm already on a roll. But looking at this chart down here, technically like my entire compensation package is within the range of a data scientist level 3 with a master's. I do not have a master's. So there's so many skewed data points out there, but that is a part, your education level, especially if you have a PhD, you will have a starting salary probably of $200,000 just because of your experience and what you're gonna bring to the table. And then the biggest group by its industry. That is by far the biggest jump you're gonna make because if you're currently not in tech and you move to tech or you move from tech to finance, that's really how you skyrocket. Quantitative analysts at finance companies or software engineers at finance companies, they make the most, cream of the crop. But for me, I came from a company that was more market research at Nielsen, and that company hired thousands and thousands of data scientists, and the salary is much lower than what I have now at a tech startup. So tech salaries are very easily the highest. Looking at this chart, you can tell Netflix by far pays the most, I think, for data scientists. We all know that. I think Netflix and Airbnb are notoriously well-paid data scientists, but also I heard they only hire PhDs at Netflix. So there's a lot going on in there. But I do have friends at Facebook, Google, and Microsoft all making well above $180,000 at 24. All of them are making above 180 and they're in cities like Chicago. So not even San Francisco and still making that level of money. So that is really an expectation for those kinds of tech companies. So going through salary progression and just numbers based on my experience, also the experiences of my friends who are also data scientists, because everyone's a data scientist now. My range for my first 2 years was 80 to 110. And I got promoted every single year. I got 3 promotions before I left. And that was also for Florida. So those numbers are Florida. You could probably bump that up by 15,000, 20,000 to get numbers for Chicago. But I was in Florida, no state tax, between 80 to 110 for my first 2 years. Then I decided to leave and I only looked at startups. Tech startups do pay well. They do pay slightly less than large tech companies do, but my startup is actually under Uber. So I wasn't too far off from those compensation levels. But my range right now at about I'm almost hitting my 3rd year of having been in the field because I graduated in 2019. Now my range is 140 to 170. I would say that's something that will probably increase in the next couple months. And I I've been here about 6 months and I got a raise a couple months ago. So like, it depends on where you are and how their merit cycles are as well. For example, looking at Zach Wilson's post on LinkedIn, he really like doubled his salary in like a 2-year span by switching companies. It looks like he went from $80,000 to $170,000. Of course, that involves moving from Utah to California, but also, you know, moving from a smaller company to Facebook. So that really encompasses that $90,000 increase, but he really did just double his salary. But even at Facebook from 2016 to 2017, his salary increased by $70K. Depending on the value you bring to the team, you could stay at a tech company, especially. I noticed that the merit increases are high because I got an increase like just like 3 months being at my current company. The way you're valued really changes and depends on the industry you're in. So now that I'm at this compensation level, I would say like for my 4th year of working, I would expect to reach like my goal, at least like where I would reasonably want to go is like the 200 to 250 range. If I stay in Chicago, it's a reasonable expectation to have in this field, given the value that like data scientists do bring. If you have like a strong skill set where you can build machine learning models, you know the whole end-to-end infrastructure, you can write tables to production, you can clean all of that data, build the entire data science model, translate that model and its output and all of those metrics to business value. If you can do all of those things, I think these are all reasonable expectations to have once you're out of college for 3 or 4 years. Having a salary that's like around like 250,000, I think is a reasonable expectation in the tech industry. Because I have friends that are already above 200,000 in the tech industry and friends in finance above 300,000. I also want to spend some time, like now that we went into my salary progression, looking at some of the data, like the average data scientist salary at top tech companies. It looks like it ranges between 140,000 to 212,000. I think this Google one is like pretty low. I think people make more than that. Facebook sounds really accurate. Uber's also sounds pretty accurate. I'd say like my biggest tips or biggest like things you should realize is like, other than location, other than industry, like you should really negotiate for like the top of whatever you see on Glassdoor or on videos like this. If this gives you an idea of how much to ask for, just like keep negotiating. Always ask for like more than you think you need, because I didn't even think I would get to the salary I'm at right now at this age. Like I just had no idea, because if I stayed at my old company, I wouldn't have gotten here for many years. So switching companies, there's a study where if you switch companies every 2 years, like you're making 50% more than what you would without. I agree with that completely. Really, like switching companies is such a good way to increase your salary and also increase your value and find a place that like is a good fit for you as well. Those companies that like pay top tier, like, you know, Netflix, Uber, Lyft, like Google, Microsoft, like all of those tech companies, they have very rigorous, but also like understandable hiring processes. Like you could really find like all the questions they could possibly ask you if you scour the internet and just prep for like a couple weeks, a month, if you have like a strong foundation already. So nothing is out of reach. Hopefully this helped. Don't forget to smash like and subscribe if you haven't already. And please, if you have any questions, like let me know down below. Also, if you have like salary comps you want to share, all of us can learn from each other. So thank you. And I will see you guys at my next video.